Good evening, everyone. My name is Maggie, and on behalf of Book Soup, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for this virtual event with Tracy Anne Hart and Nalle Colt here to discuss Seeing Stevie Ray. We're so excited. Hello?
I said hello, everybody.
Oh, hello, everyone. We're just getting used to this. We're so excited and grateful that our bookstore can continue to bring authors and their works to our community during this uncertain time. We will be hosting more virtual events in the near future, and you can learn more about them on our website, booksoup.com, as well as our social media at booksoup. Our next event is this Wednesday, July 8th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with the Bile Maku and Valbeya Malukaleke discussing Mama Seiko. For regular updates on upcoming events, please feel free to subscribe to our email newsletter, which you can find on our website. This evening's virtual event will end with a question and answer. To submit a question, please use the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen. If you see a question on the list that you'd like our speakers to answer, please click the like button. We will try to answer as many questions as time will allow. Also, please consider supporting our bookstore and our authors by purchasing a copy of tonight's featured book. To do that, just click on the green purchase button directly below the viewer screen. The link will direct you to our website where you can continue your checkout process. We will be selling digital audiobooks and ebooks through Libro FM and Kobo for those interested. With that said, let me introduce our speakers. Tracy Anne Hart is perhaps best known for the widely published, exhibited, and auctioned images of Texas music legend Stevie Ray Vaughan, who she had the privilege to photograph between 1983 and his untimely death in 1990. The prints have been shown in Austin, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, Portland, where Tracy is represented by several galleries that show her music, architectural, and natural photographs. Her images have appeared in Premier Guitar and Guitar Player magazines in the USA and Grand Guitars and other magazines in Europe. Her work has also been featured in a special Stevie Ray Vaughan gallery in MOA by Legion Paper's website and the blog, and in a Guitar World book on Vaughan. Nalle Colt is a Swedish guitarist and resident studio musician, best known as the lead guitarist in the Los Angeles-based rhythm and blues band Vintage Trouble. Colt was born in Malmö, Sweden. As a child, he was a skateboarding prodigy, competing on a professional level. After an injury left him bedridden, he learned how to play guitar at the age of 13. Colt cites his early musical influences as the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, and Led Zeppelin. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera over to Tracy and Nalle, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the presentation.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. If you haven't got a copy of the book, you can get it from Book Soup. She said it's on the website and all that. And yeah, so, and Nalle is in the band called Vintage Trouble, which is an amazing band. So if you haven't checked them out, you need to do that.
Thank you, Tracy.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I thought this would be a good moment since I get you on camera like this to, find out a little bit about your history with Stevie Ray and how come you got so close to shooting him and how did it all start? How did you find Stevie Ray? Or did he find you?
Well, actually, I found him. It took me a while. I mean, he'd been playing, 2-night stands in Houston for many years. And then David Bowie decided that he wanted Stevie to play on his album. And that pretty much did it. I was working for Public News, which is was a new wave paper in Houston. And they said, oh, well, he's playing with Bowie. We got to get pictures of him. So, and this was in March of 1983. So that's how I met Stevie. And this picture here, that's one of the very first that I ever took of Stevie. Literally, like probably the 5th picture I took of him. It was at a sound check. And we went there with a couple of people interviewing him. The story is that the Chinese beer cap that he's wearing, he actually got from Bowie. So it's a little China cap.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, that's, when I was a little kid, I think I was, uh, just a teenager, and I remember that Bowie record coming out, Let's Dance, and I never heard anything of Stevie Ray Vaughan, and my brother played that record for me, and
Mhm.
my ears peaked up when it was China Girl and all of that stuff. Like, who is that
Yeah. All those
guy
Albert
who
King
plays those little
licks.
riffs?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing now because actually, since we were going to talk today, I went back and listened to all those records, and I listened to the Let's Dance record, and it's amazing because it's such a tiny little bit in pieces that he got featured in, and obviously China got the big guitar solo at the end, and
Mhm.
and and it was undeniable. The whole world flipped out and wanted to know who this guy was. It's pretty incredible. What a year for him. Because
Oh, yeah.
did he make Texas Flood the same year, right?
Yes, he did. He did. He recorded it at Jackson Brown's studio, and then it came out in June of 1983. So
Right.
this was like 3 months before that happened. If we could go to the next slide. Well, there's
Next
another.
slide.
Yes, next.
Oh, there you
Okay,
go.
that's one of my first live pictures of him, and that actually is on the back cover of the book. Um, that's one of my favorites to this day because he looks so happy,
Right.
and he's the kind of guy that if he was playing to an audience of 10 people, that was good. I mean, it was just him and his guitar. So he just loved what he did. It's hard to imagine somebody being more into the guitar than he was. Although I do know a lot of people who are pretty close to the being that way, which it's a very interesting thing. All the using, collecting, all the different pedals, different amps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Did you ever travel with him touring wise, or did you just shoot
Um,
mostly in Houston?
No, this was mostly in Houston and then some in Austin and Dallas. He played in Texas all the time. I mean, even after he got really famous, he then, went on to uh, worldwide acclaim. He still played in Texas all the time, which was a wonderful thing.
Where is the? Can I ask you the Capitol Theater? Where is that in Houston?
No, the Capitol. I don't even know where the Capitol Theater is. But he played in Sam Houston Coliseum in Houston, and he played. Let's see, where in Dallas and all various places in Dallas and Austin. The last time I saw him, the photograph that's on the cover of the book was outdoor venue called Auditorium Shores, which is very close to where the statue of Stevie is now in
Nice,
Austin. So yeah.
nice.
So let's go to the next one, the next slide of Stevie playing Lenny, the
Yeah,
guitar, and Lenny the song, named
yeah.
after his wife, Lenny.
Right.
Yeah.
And do you he when you started meeting him and taking pictures of him, he had that guitar already? Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Because this is the first show I shot,
Oh
and
shit. Oh
and
wow.
he would play that the guitar for the instrumental Lenny,
Yeah.
and later on he played Riviera Paradise on it. So,
Yeah.
uh, and this was the guitar that his wife Lenny and several friends bought for him and gifted to him. So uh,
Yeah, it's
that's
so cool. I know a little bit of the history of it, and that the wah with the wood inlay in the back of the guitar is really cool.
yes.
The reason I love this picture too, because he has a really famous live show from Elmo Combo, you know that, and when he plays Lenny there, I remember when I was a kid seeing that video of him playing there when he's sitting and he's just sweating so much and playing it so beautiful.
Yes, it's yes.
Incredible. incredible.
know. It's a beautiful song for sure.
Yeah. Well, and the way he plays it was the deliverance is amazing. I think even like he did it better live than he did it on any of the recordings you heard of it.
Quite likely, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 hmm
Did you
Um,
feel? Did you feel like it was a when you met him early 1983? Did you feel like it you know, obviously he got really famous really fast, like after the whole David Bowie thing. Do you feel like there was a big change in him, or they kind of stayed true to everything?
um, well, I basically he was the same person.
Yeah.
He was a very humble person. And as far as whether I expected that he'd get famous, well, you have to go back to the music scene in the early '80s, and the flock of guys with weird hair and stuff like that, and all of that new wave stuff. When Stevie started showing up on MTV and on the
Yeah.
radio and everything, it was like, wow, they'd be playing Iran, and then all of a sudden Pride and Joy came on, which is
I know
a difference. Yeah,
it was I remember that well since I'm from Sweden. You know, I grew up with the Eurovision festival and all that
yeah,
crazy super. You know, it was Aha and Culture Club and when you were a kid, it was hard to find like badass music that you want to check out. And like you said, like when I got to see Stevie Ray on MTV and wow, you know, I couldn't stand the weather. I remember that video with him.
oh yeah, that's a good way to get guitars and equipment really wet.
Yeah, no, it was
I still wonder how they did that,
yeah,
and didn't
that's my favorite record from Couldn't Stand the Weather.
the whole record, or just that particular song.
For some reason, that whole record was like something. I mean, I love Texas Flood too, and obviously that got it all started. But I felt like Couldn't Stand the Weather. It felt like, you know, he had, I think he recorded that a couple of years later, 84, 85, I
Yeah,
think. And
84, yeah.
yeah,
And Voodoo Child's on that. And
yeah.
that's the thing, this just such an incredible version of Voodoo Child. Let's
I
go to the
know.
next slide. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
And this is, yes, this was from the Texas Flood album release show. And this is unusual for that time period, in that Stevie's playing an ES-335. This was posted on Instagram, and a lot of the people said, wow, I've never seen him with a Gibson, hollow body Gibson. And one of my answers was, have you not seen the cover of Soul to Soul? Because that's the guitar that he's holding on the cover.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he didn't just stand there with it, he actually played it too. And I think this particular song, I think it was Rude Mood, which is on Texas Flood. It's one of the other instrumentals, and he broke a string on number one. So he picked that one up for some reason, but it sounded great. I mean, you go back to all the older bluesmen and his influences playing. Yeah, I mean, look at Jimi Hendrix. All the variety guitars he played. Flying V, Strats, everything.
Totally.
Yeah, and the weird thing was, when he was playing those Strats with the big headstock, they were new. It's like it wasn't. You didn't go out and get a vintage one. So like he was playing brand new guitars. So
Yeah.
I know, once CBS took over and everything, supposedly the quality was not quite the same. But I think when Jimi Hendrix played the newer post CBS guitars, I don't think you could tell.
Yeah, it didn't matter with him, and I didn't think it mattered with Steve Ray either.
No.
To pick up any guitar.
Yeah, just like his brother Jimmie. Jimmie Vaughan, his phrasing and style is so impeccable. I mean, he could play a cigar box, just a regular cigar box, not an official cigar box guitar, which is a whole other industry. But if we go to the next slide of Stevie with Jimmie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was in Dallas. And I think one of the things I like about this image is that it very much shows the difference in style between the two brothers.
I love it.
I mean, Stevie's got, the hat and the kimono, and sometimes he'd have like huge amounts of jewelry and rings and so on. And then Jimmie's got the suit and tie, and and the maple neck and all that stuff. And this was the guitar, the Hamilton.
Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah.
Hamilton or Hamilton.
Hamilton. The guy's name was Hamilton, and so the guitar company just put the E for tone on the end of that. But Billy Gibbons gave Stevie that guitar.
It's such a cool guitar, and I actually have to admit, when I was a kid, I got way into Stevie Ray, and I did see that the image of not exactly this one, but another one with him playing that, and I have a friend who's an amazing guitar builder in Malmö, Sweden. His name is Johan Gustafsson, and he ended up actually making a guitar where it had Nalle Colt and pearl inlay in that strat. It looked exactly like that.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Sadly, it burned up in a storage fire, so I don't have the guitar anymore. But yeah, I was such a fanatic Stevie Ray Vaughan fan at that time. I even wanted the same guitar.
Yeah. Well,
it's a great shot.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you go to the next slide of,
I'm actually
going
to order that shot from you, because it actually, with that, like you said, with Jimmie Vaughan and Stevie Ray together, it's really cool. I'm gonna make sure to order that from you if I can.
And then, I wish, well, everyone wishes that they'd gone on tour, been able to tour for Family Style.
Yeah.
By then, both of them were clean, and they had resolved whatever sibling things they had going on, and they were just so close, and it would have been wonderful to see them play together at that point.
It's a great record.
Yes, for sure. So in this one, speaking of records, Stevie is signing bootleg albums, and he's looking at me, asking me why he is making his own bootlegs more valuable by autographing them. But of course, he did it anyway. And I think also of particular interest is the outfit that he has on here. That coat may or may not have been his wife Lenny's coat. They were basically the same size, and he would sometimes wear her clothes. So that could have.
He looks so young there too. It's pretty amazing.
I know. Yeah, he basically it's kind of pimp attire.
I love it.
Yeah, there's.
It's so wild too. I had to say with Stevie Ray Vaughan's style, because obviously the decade after all this, you saw all these blues players trying to copy Stevie Ray with the same outfits and everything, and no one could really do it. He had found a certain way of doing it so right.
Right.
Like
Wearing his wife's clothes.
Huh?
Wearing his wife's clothes. That's.
Yeah.
I guess that was the way to do it.
I think that was what Keith Richards used to do a lot too. He'd always steal his wife's clothes.
Yeah.
It's great.
But as far as that, talking about the coat, I know that there's a lot of pictures of many years before Stevie wore this of James Brown wearing like a leopard skin coat or something. So I would have to guess that that would be an influence on Stevie too.
Yeah.
Somebody as cool as James Brown to be wearing that kind of coat. It's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. And
great shot. And it's out on a parking lot or something?
Yeah, it was the parking lot outside of Sam Houston Coliseum. And the other thing was, by this time, this was 1986, his
It is.
drug and alcohol use had gotten to be really bad. You know, and that was something that that did influence his playing to some extent. I think he was so good that, you know, it was hard to tell. But you know,
Yeah.
if you think back to the early '80s, it's like, oh well, you know, you got to be messed up to play, right? So that was the thing then. So now it's the exception rather than the rule, which is, to my way of thinking, is a good thing. But you know, actually, when I took many of these pictures, had I not had the pictures, I would have no idea what happened on that particular day. Because, you know, you hang around backstage, you know, you do what they do. You want to fit in. So,
Of course.
that was.
Is this after or before the show?
I'm sorry?
Is
What?
this the photo was taken after or before the show?
Oh, no, this was before, this was, I don't know if it was between the sound check and the show or after the sound check. I can't remember. But, you
Would
know,
he do like meet and greets and all that stuff?
oh, yeah. 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 So anyway,
Sorry.
yeah, that's
Go
okay. That's okay. You're supposed to be asking me questions. That's
I
cool.
know. I got too
But you know, I've got like this script, which is the book here. You know, it's like, oh, here in the book. I don't know if I was actually supposed to do like a reading, which is good because I am not the best person to read aloud. But you know,
You're doing great.
well, thank you. You're doing better.
Thank you.
Okay, so then the next one, you go back to talking about Stevie's style. Yeah, Jimmie gave him the headdress, and so Stevie, and they did have I think, Cherokee blood, but he wore it with utmost respect for sure. It was not, you know, something that he thought was,
Joking around. Yeah.
yeah, something to make. Well, it was kind of like playing the blues. You know, you assimilate that and get into it so strongly, and it's America. I mean, you can't have America without Native Americans. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's a rare guitar there too, with a turnaround headstock.
yeah. So many people in America who have been, whose families have been here for any amount of time are partly Native American. You know, Jimi Hendrix was partly Native American, so which probably was another reason that Stevie would wear it, because you know, basically his big heroes and influences were both named Jimmie, but spelled differently. Jimi Hendrix and his brother Jimmie Vaughan, and then of course you have the guys like the Kings, you know, Albert, BB, and Freddie, and you have Albert Collins, and you know, just so much great music that Stevie got to hear, in part because of his brother. And then when he got old enough to buy records himself, well, he really delved into it. So that's, you know, of course, like any kid with records, I'm sure you did this with Stevie's records, he would sit there and try to play along and play the songs. So, yeah.
That's a great shot. What year is this taken?
This is 1987, and this was the first show that he did in Houston where he was clean and sober. And you could, you know, there was more of a clarity to his, not just to his playing, but to, you know, talking to him backstage and all. He was obviously much more content and happy with himself, and he was very, very much into the fellowship, and it saved him. It saved his life, literally, to be in AA and have, you know, they would have meetings in whatever city he went to. That's gone into in Alan Paul and Andy Eldort's book, the biography of Stevie, called Texas Flood, that, you know, about his sobriety and maintaining that and helping others also get sober, which of course is a big part of the 12 steps. So,
Yeah.
yeah, very important part of Stevie's life at this point.
Right.
And also, you know, helping his brother and his friend Doyle Bramhall, who of course was Doyle Bramhall II's dad, but he was a really great drummer, singer, songwriter. A lot of his singing was a great influence on Stevie. If you listen to Doyle Sr., you'll hear very much that Stevie listened to him. And Stevie was always a little shy or unsure about his singing, but I thought he was a great singer. You know,
Amazing, so good. And actually, I love that song they wrote together, right? Life by the Drop.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then another song where you can really hear how good a singer Stevie is especially the recorded version of Tin Pan Alley.
Yeah, I was about
Yeah,
to say.
I mean, his singing
So
is
good.
so good in that.
Yeah.
You know, just goes from a whisper to a scream to
Yeah,
quote
and all
Elvis.
that.
I don't know where Elvis Costello came from that. But,
Yeah, no, it's so true. I think he's like, he never, when people speak about Stevie Ray, they obviously speak about all the guitar playing, but what a great singer. And you know, his presence in the voice is just amazing. Great.
yes,
Really good.
yeah, there's just as much emotion and passion in his voice as in his playing.
Yeah.
That yeah, this is, you know, that's something that a lot of guitarists, if they're the leader of the band and the singer, I know that, you know, it's a lot of actually B.B. King. If you look at him, he never plays and sings at the same time. He'll sing something and then he'll play a lick, and he'll sing and he'll play a lick, and it can't be easy, especially someone like Stevie, who was able to play lead and rhythm simultaneously. So doing all that and singing had to be, you know,
Incredible.
quite a task. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was way more than up to it. So should we go to the next one, the next slide? And
Oh, I
this
know
is,
that.
yeah, that's a contact sheet. So you get a glimpse into my creative process. You know, it's just when you had film, you couldn't see what you shot. You know, you have to wait for, you know, a couple hours after the show, go back and develop it. And you didn't really know what you got until you got into the dark room and developed it. And I mean, that was great. I mean, there's something very magical about being in a wet dark room and all the, you know, the chemicals and the alchemy and all that involved with it, and that blending of art and science. Because you know, these are the strips of film, and you know, here's this stuff that's in a little can, and all of a sudden it becomes images, which is exciting. So yeah, this was the contact sheet that I showed Stevie, and he actually picked 3 of the pictures off of this contact sheet as his favorites. And that's that Texas flood triptych that's featured in the book, and one of my favorite things of him playing the solo of Texas Flood. And that's the second strip from the white. He picked 3 of those images off of that. I think it's the top one, the second from the top, and then the bottom one on that strip. That he said, these are my favorites. So that's what I went with when I was printing. And then the next one after that, that's,
Yeah.
I wanted to have one of him at the mic because, you know, I kind of jumped ahead of myself as far as talking about his singing. But to me, that was a very important part of it. And then to you too, Nalle, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just, he was so much better than he thought he was. And that's also because he was a very humble person. Even when he was, you know, as high as a kite, he was still very humble. And he had a great sense of humor, and he was just generally a cool person. So, but you know, here's number 1 too, as in the the contact sheet. I know I haven't shown that many pictures with the #1 guitar, but this was the one that he called a 59, but I think it was actually a 61 or 2. And yeah, because the body was marked 62 or 3, maybe even. Definitely pre-CBS, but you know, he saw the guitar at the guitar store and said, "Man, that one will sound good. I need to get that one." And it was not in that much better a shape, I've heard, when he got it as it is in this picture. You can see the condition of it, but what a sound it had, right? What a sound that guitar had.
Yeah, magic, and I love, you know, this whole contact sheet. I have a copy of that on my wall here, and I, you know, even like his shirt, everything is so iconic. That's, to me, like, these pictures are the ones that you, when you think of Stevie Ray, like, this is the first that come into your mind. Because I mean, I know a lot of these from this contact sheet was the ones that were featured in so many guitar magazines, and I just know growing up, you know, I've been staring at these pictures for
well, thank you. You've simultaneously given me a huge compliment and made me feel like I'm about 80 years old, but you know.
Every little detail about the guitar, and it's amazing, you know, and his necklace.
Yes, I'm glad that young people like you are able to do that. But no, I'm seriously, I was so blessed to be able to be around Stevie and to capture these moments, because, you know, it's like anything else in life. You think, oh, this is going to go on forever, and it doesn't. So yeah, unless you have, unless you capture the images, you know, that's it. Recordings and photographs and YouTube videos and so on. That's all we've got.
When you take pictures now, do you still shoot mostly analog or like real?
No, I haven't actually shot analog for many years. I waited to get into digital, not because of any kind of Luddite thing, but because for many years the quality was not there. For all of you camera people, camera nerds, there is a little bit of a technical section in the book, and I go into that. But when digital photography started, the resolution was very low. There was that wonderful thing called shutter lag, where you take a picture and, you know, like a second later, or press the shutter, and a second later you'd actually have a picture. And it's hard to remember all that. I mean, even for me, you know, that. But I basically waited, and I got into the Sony digital cameras, which I really liked. I was shooting Leica and Nikon for the film ones. These particular ones are Nikon shots with from a distance like that. That's you know, the bigger venue, you need a longer lens, and a Leica, a camera like that, an SLR, single lens reflex, it just is better for a bigger, longer lens, whereas the Leicas were better for you know, small clubs and so on, a more intimate camera. And the Sonys seem to be able to blend both, which is really nice. If probably go to another slide here. This is from that same show, and that's with #1. You could see all the wear on the body really well. And yeah.
What do you think, is that the most the shot that got most attention? Isn't it one of these? Like, does it seem like this specific picture I even seen at the airport in Austin? Right?
Oh yeah, I know. The close up of his hands. That's yeah. I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to go to the picture in the book here. Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah.
So good. In reverse, because I've, you know, got my camera, my webcam straightened out in Zoom to where it doesn't reverse things. But we're doing crowdcasts, so yeah. Well, you know, we've got to learn these things. But yeah, that picture was the one you actually sent me a shot of that you took when you were in Dallas.
Oh yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that was a few years ago, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great shot. So so this picture is from 1986 too?
No, these are 89.
89, yeah.
The headdress is 87, and these were 89. Unfortunately, I didn't shoot Stevie much in between 87 and 89 because my mom was ill and she passed away in 88. So I didn't, of course, get to go to that many shows. So,
Right.
but, you know, that's something that, you know, you don't think about that at the time. That, oh, well, there'll be lots more shows. But, you know, anyway, yeah, it's like I said, things don't go on forever, unfortunately. So if we go to the next picture, I'll give you some more camera nerd stuff. This one with the way the lighting is and so on, it's, I always call it the Rembrandt shot. Not just the lighting, but the hat and the soul patch. You know, he almost looks like one of the Dutch master's cigar hats.
So true.
Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting thing with this one. And Sam Houston Coliseum in Houston, a lot of times the sound was not that great, but they had wonderful lighting. So, yeah, and you can see that the way the light hit the brim of the hat and all that stuff. So, yeah, and that's, I would use a lot of times a fill flash to get under the hat. And in Stevie's case, he said he didn't mind at all because then he knew when I was taking the picture, which I don't know how he could have being into his playing, but that was what he said anyway. So,
it's great.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's a killer shot.
Yeah. So then the next one is Stevie. The next slide. That's the book cover. And I don't know if it is the favorite shot that I ever did of Stevie, but it's, you know, definitely in the top three. I just love it because, well, he's playing Voodoo Child. He's this is in 1990 on Auditorium Shores in Austin. I just like the, you know, the background is almost like, dare I say, a velvet painting.
Yeah.
But you know the so strong with the black and the negative space and so on. But that was such a magnificent show. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen by anyone, and yeah, it was really great to be able to be there. And it's unfortunately it was the last full show that I shot. That was in May, and I saw him briefly in June at the Cynthia Woods Pavilion out in the Woodlands. I think you guys played there a couple of years ago with the Dixie Chicks or the Chicks. Right. That's right. They're not not Dixie anymore. But yeah, that place. You know, summer shows out there are pretty. It's sort of an endurance test, I think, for the bands and the audience. So, but that was the last place that I actually spoke to him. I was supposed to shoot a show in Dallas in, I think in July it was, and I was so messed up on drugs and alcohol that I just blew it off, and I said, "Oh well, I'll get him next time." You know, that's
it's a great shot. It's speaking a lot to, I'm sure, a lot of guitar players, you know, feel a certain thing when you see it, you know. It's got that upside down whammy bar and all that.
Oh yeah, that was, he just said it felt more comfortable that way, and of course that's the reference to Hendrix, to have it that way. Also, I know that when he would wear those kimonos or shirts with the big sleeves, sometimes the whammy bar would rip the sleeve. So
exactly, it's a better upside down. Yeah. That's cool. Really, it's a great cover. I love it.
Yeah, but I think
I have it right
Texas
here.
A&M Press did a really good job with the red lettering and so on, and yeah, it's really good. And if you look at the cover of the book, hold the cover up again, Molly. You see the forwards by Eric Tesmer, David Grissom, and by the guy in the next slide, which we're going to show.
Okay.
Nalle Colt, yeah, he was playing "Run Like the River" with.
Oh man, I missed that slide.
Yeah.
An amazing troublemaker gave me that slide. It's in porcelain. It was really nice, and it had the Vintage Trouble logo actually on it.
I know. Yeah.
But we were doing a show, and the slide rolled off an amp and fell down and smashed to pieces. I love that slide, but hopefully I can find him again.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, we need to get you another one. It's beautiful, yeah.
It's really cool,
very
right?
good in the photograph, because if you
Right.
look, it's all black, except there's this bright blue slide. So, and what was it? Was it ceramic? Like
Yep.
China? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
yes. Great,
yeah.
great tone, because it's really hard to find good slides, and
Mhm.
I was going through a lot. I loved that one, and yeah, it rolled off. I saw it rolling off an amp and smashed it.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. That's always good, right?
And you
Yeah.
truly caught the guitar face there. That's a guitar face for you,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
So, how do you? I know you go between the Les Pauls and this Gretsch when you do that song, when you do Run Like the River. How, do you just like, oh, I feel like playing this one today, or how do you decide which one to play?
No, well, for that specific song, it's open tuning.
Right. With the slide,
you
yeah.
you tune that guitar differently. So I always have to have a separate guitar we call it the Run Like the River guitar for every show, you know. So we got to set aside a guitar that we tune. It's called open G, where you actually tune the guitar to a chord.
Mm-hmm.
So you can play slide on it, and so that's why I have to have and usually that black Gretsch was like the Run Like the River guitar, you know. Sometimes I use some other guitars, but that was.
But I've seen
that's still my favorite for that song.
Yeah, it's. What did you on the recording? Which guitar did you use? Did you use that one or?
No, it's actually Dan Electro.
You did use a Dan Electro.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, you know,
when I first,
yes, oh, the Jimmy Page guitar.
Yeah. Because you know, you know, I don't know how many guitar players are on here, but obviously when we play the song live, I kind of take the "In My Time of Dying" Led Zeppelin. I kind of fake that a little bit in the intro, you know, and obviously it was definitely from. And I know Stevie Ray Vaughan had that white Strat with the lipstick pickups on it, you know, which is
that was the one that Charlie Wirtz made him. Had the lipstick pickup. I was going to say also when you do the not just the intro, but when you do the solo in the middle of the song, it always kind of has it takes me back to dancing days.
Yeah, it ends. The solo ends with the dancing.
But it's really great. You know, and it's just like Stevie doing the Albert King licks and the Hendrix stuff and all that. You got to have influences. I mean, to go back to if you hold up the cover again, that picture on the cover.
Yeah.
Besides my dad, who was a fantastic photographer, Milton Green did this picture of Marlene Dietrich with her head down and her hair over her face and her legs out. And, you know, you couldn't really see her face, but you saw her legs and the hair, and you knew it was her. And that was actually on my mind, that image, when I took the one of Stevie.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt in the world who that is playing guitar.
That's right. I mean, my publisher was great, Texas A&M Press, but they did kind of say, well, that's a great photo, but shouldn't we use one that shows his face? And I said, people will know immediately who that is. Yeah.
That's cool. See, that's why
there's people like you around.
Yeah, so we have one more picture of Nalle here, and we're going to force Nalle to tell us how to get information and merchandise and records and everything of Vintage Trouble. So why don't you tell them that, and then I'll tell them how to get stuff from me. So
well,
it's a very
first say that guitar. Right
it's a very complex. Oh, that yes, there it is.
There it is. It's a very cool guitar.
It
made
is.
by Gretsch, and they even put my name on it. And it's a Trouble logo.
Hold it up where your name is. It's on the pick guard.
Yeah. But yeah, you can get everything at vintagetrouble.com. A lot of stuff there. We constantly putting out new music now during the COVID era.
Yeah, you have a new song that you guys did. What's the name of that song? The newer one that you did?
We put out one a couple of months ago in the beginning of the COVID situation here called Outside In.
Yeah.
It's actually very inspired by the feelings of being kind of, caught up in all this and being alone, a lot of,
yes.
I personally, I'm lucky and have a family around, but I know there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time on their own, and it's been a really rough time for a lot of people. So that song was to them for sure. And then we just put up a new version of an original song that we made on our first album called Not Right By Me.
Yes, I saw that too.
2020 version that we feel is important message to the situation we're dealing with here in the whole world, actually.
Yeah, and the new song, it's just the whole band is really cooking. Everybody.
Thank you, Tracy.
There are other people in the band besides Nalle. There's Ty Taylor and Rick Barrio Dill and Richard Danielson, and you guys are great. I really miss seeing you live. And I'll go ahead and say, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm on Instagram and my website as The Heights Gallery, and that's HEIGHTS Gallery, the in front of it. There's a gallery in Arkansas or somewhere that it's called just Heights Gallery, but that's confusing. Anyway, and the book, Tracy Anne Hart on Facebook, and if you go to that, of course, you get the links to everything else. And if you want the book, you get it from Book Soup. I see they have a purchase the book thing there. So
great. Yes. We do have some questions that need to be answered.
Nope.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take some questions. I don't know if we have any questions here.
We do. The first one is, how on earth did you select which pictures to put in the book?
I'm sorry, you froze up there. I didn't actually hear.
Oh, sorry. How on earth did you select which pictures to put in the book?
I took prints and threw them all over the room, and no, not really. I don't know, actually. That's a very good question. I guess choosing ones that told more of a story, a lot of ones that, had been popular, been on album covers or billboards or whatever, tooting my own horn here. But, there were some that it was obvious, I'd say, maybe 15 or 20 that had to be in there. And then I tried to get some that were a little bit more obscure that people hadn't seen all of. So that was also something. But mainly, to tell the story chronologically. And I should mention that the book also has a section of some of Stevie's influences, the people that we mentioned. Unfortunately, I was too young to photograph Jimi Hendrix, which to my regret forever, but we've got Albert King and Albert Collins and Doyle Bramhall and Lonnie Mack and, very importantly, Jimmie Vaughan in the book. And then I've got a section on players who followed Stevie, and not anyone who's a a copier or a tribute band, but people who kind of have the feeling and the spirit and emulate the feeling rather than copy. And Nolly's in there, Eric Tesmer is in there, Gary Clark Jr. is in there, and Ian Moore. I definitely recommend that you check those guys out as well. There's a reason they're in the book, and that's because you need to hear them. So they're in there. So.
One more question is, what was your most joyful memory of photographing Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Wow. Just one? Well, possibly the show that's on the picture on the cover. It was just such a perfect show, and it was so much fun. And that was where I showed him the contact sheets from the show the previous year, and he picked out the ones at Texas Flood, and we just got to talk to him a lot at that one, which I always did. I don't have that many offstage pictures because, we're talking and, not so much taking pictures. But that show, shooting that show, I was actually climbing on scaffolding when I was shooting it. And in the song Walking the Tightrope, there's a line, heart full of darkness, spotlight on my face. And they actually put the spotlight on me on the scaffolding on that line. So that has to be, I would have to say that was the moment. And Nalle, tell Ty about that. He'd appreciate that. Speaking of the river. Yeah. So that, it's right up there. And then I guess if I had to pick two, the other would be the first show, meeting him and getting to hear him, and just the what he put into a sound check. He could have been playing for 10,000 people at that sound check with the enthusiasm and the love for playing and the love for the music. That was wonderful to hear. So, with no other questions?
Well, those are the two main questions.
Okay.
The first one was presented by Emily Wagner, and the second was presented by Chuck Kirkendall. So,
okay. Well, thank you, both of you. Yeah.
Of course, we're going to be wrapping up now. So, thank you again to our guests and to all of you who tuned in this evening.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Nalle, for joining me.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate everyone's time and your support of independent bookstores. Again, if you're interested in purchasing a copy of Seeing Stevie Ray, please click the green button below at the bottom of your screen. We're also accepting donations on our website. If you'd like regular updates on our upcoming events, please follow us on Crowdcast and subscribe to our newsletter. Everyone have a safe and wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye, you guys.
Bye.